Scott Mitchell here with It's My Game speaker highlights. It's My Game Kids Tennis Conference. You got to register. It's August 14th to the 23rd. Register at conference.evolve9.com. We've got over 20 speakers, 40 hours of content. If you register for the VIP package, you're going to get content for an entire year. So this content from the conferences, but also much, much more. So go to the website today and register. Today I'm talking with Martin. Martin, thanks for joining us.
No, it's my pleasure.
So you're the director at Mini Players based in Barcelona, Spain. I know you were also the former junior program director at Sanchez Casal's Academy here in the U.S. Tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing these days.
Well, I'm working in Barcelona, Tennis Barcelona, exactly. I'm still working with kids or adults or recreational players, but Mini Players is taking part of my life because I'm really dedicated to develop new ideas about how to work with little kids, and that is something I've been doing for about 15 years now, and that's why I call it Mini Players, because I wanted to give it some identity.
So your focus mainly right now within the Mini Players is that group that's what, under the age of 10?
Yeah, basically 3 to 10, 12.
So tell us a little bit about your program. What makes your program so successful? I know you've had years of success, obviously doing what you're doing now. You had years of success with Sanchez Casal's. But tell us specifically about your program that you're working on right now.
Well, what I try to do is just not do the traditional stuff. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but I wanted to do it in a very peculiar way, in a very creative way. I wanted to have sessions that are dynamic, creative, and fun. But the problem with the fun activities is sometimes that they don't teach anything. Right. It's very, in my opinion, it's very easy to entertain kids, but it's not easy to teach them something. So my goal was, okay, I'm going to have a very fun environment. I'm going to have kids moving all the time, not waiting for a few chances to hit a ball and then having to pick up the balls, get back on the line. I wanted to kids be very active, but also I wanted to teach them something in every session.
Yeah, and I think, we've talked before, and I think a lot of your program is different than what a lot of people, at least in the United States, but in a lot of areas around the country. So you basically don't go out with a basket. You definitely don't do lines and everything. Tell us a little bit about what a basic 1 hour lesson would look like in your program.
Okay, to make it simple, if I have 3-year-olds or 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, what I do is I developed their skills. I'm not working specifically on technique because at some point, when they're too young, it's very difficult to handle a racket or to learn a mechanic. But what I teach them is how to use their body, how to develop some skills like throwing, catching, running, jumping, and using those skills after to improve their tennis level. So what I do is I set up obstacle tracks, and I have the kids moving all the time, doing different activities, but they all have one target in mind, just to improve certain skills that they're going to use in the future to play tennis.
So when you go out there, like I said, you don't have a basket. You just hand each child a ball, and you have very specific activities that you want them to do that build their skill sets, like you said. And I think that's something different than we see at a lot of programs where it's activity-based, but the activities aren't necessarily specific to developing the child.
You know what happened? I'm going to tell you something that's fun. Many years ago, I was working in a club, and the director said, okay, guys, I want to challenge you. I want to see all of you doing a 1 hour session with the mini tennis kids, but having to pick up the balls only once. Okay, I loved that. I loved it.
Right,
but I took it to the extreme. I said, okay, I'm not only going to pick up once, I'm going to use one ball per kid the entire session. Huh. So if a kid is working with a red ball, an orange ball, a green ball, she's going to use that for 1 hour. So what do I do with that? What I'm looking for with that is that and every time they hit, every time they throw, every time they push the ball with the racket, that ball, they can be reused. So it's like recycling the equipment. So you hit, you throw, you push the ball with the racket, you catch it, you go back to the tracks, and you do the activities again, and you keep on hitting the same ball. But that ball that you hit, or you push, or you throw, that ball has to have a meaning and a destination. That's what I think. Every time they do something with the ball has to go somewhere specific, not just hitting. What happens is, I'm not criticizing the use of baskets, but what happens is when coaches get on cruise control and just feed balls and the kids are hitting, what happens? At one point, you pay attention to the statistics and you say, hey, probably 60% of those balls, they were hit into the net, they were hit out, they were hit with the frame of the racket. And the kid is not concentrated. Obviously, the kid is not concentrating when he or she knows that the coach is going to feed 20 balls.
Right.
So if I miss the third ball, if I miss the fifth shot, I don't care because I have 15 more balls coming, right? Yeah. So they don't pay attention. But when you tell them, listen, we have one choice, one chance, just drop the ball, you hit it to me, I give it back to you, and you go back to the track and you do this again. And probably on the other side, you're going to do a progression on the backhand. And then you have to hit the ball in between these two cones, or you hit the ball to me or hit the ball to your teammate, which is on the other side of the net, trying to catch the ball with the cone, with their hands, or hit it back with the racket. Okay, so every time they hit or they do something with the ball, that ball has to go somewhere.
Right. There's a purpose for everything that you do in your program, for sure.
Right.
So, you have had great success in your career, working with all different levels of players and ages. What excites you so much about working with the 12 and under kids, more so maybe than high performance or tournament player kids?
Well, I'm not trying to be the different one, but every coach wants to be in competition level. Everyone wants to be traveling and taking good players into tournaments and teaching them something or training some skills. Thing is, I love working with little kids, especially because you see the progressions in every session.
Right.
And I want them to love the sport. I want them to know how to use their body properly. I want them to understand the game. This is a sport that you can play forever. So if they learn the proper way when they're 4, they're 6, or they're 8, 10, what happens? If you teach them correctly, that technique, that understanding of the game, they're going to use it forever.
Right.
So
and if we get more kids loving the sport earlier, they're going to stay in it longer.
Exactly.
So what's some of the success that you had that you might be able to share with a coach out there or somebody who's overseeing a program where you found the success in getting the kids to love the sport? What exactly are you doing with those 4 to 5, 6-year-old kids that get them to say, wow, I really love this and I'm going to stick with it?
You know what happens? I'm not the typical coach that is focused on results. I don't really mind about results. I don't mind if my players are not winning mini tennis events or tennis tournaments when they're 12, 14, 16. I don't mind that. I want to see the performance. I want to see the way they behave on the court. Because I'm not only teaching them how to hit a forehand, how to chase down a ball to hit a backhand. I'm teaching them how to behave on the court, how to be nice, how to develop a team spirit. I also teaching that. So that's my goal, to have great kids, great behavior, great team, talk to parents a lot, have them, make them feel part of the team. So that's basically what I want. So it's not that I'm focused only on the way they playing, or if they're the best in the region and the number 1 in the rankings. I really don't mind that. I want them to be good players.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting that you say that, because I think that's maybe where a lot of programs are missing is they're focused too much on the kids and the tennis piece of it, and they're not really focused on the life skills that tennis brings, or like you said, the behavior skills that you learn. right? So respect and understanding competition and all that is a whole, if more coaches started to focus in on like you are, I think they're going to find their programs much more successful.
Exactly. You know what I see a lot of times is, for example, if we are playing team competitions under 12, under 14, let's say, and the number one kid in that particular team, very good player in terms of results, but his behavior is not something that sets the example for the rest of the team. Okay, so he's very controversial. You know, he's not training the hard way all the time. He's not giving his best or her best effort, and sometimes it's kind of disrespectful to you or the parents. So what happens? That because the results are always good, that player is always on the team. It's always get selected to play in a team competition because he's going to win the point. And I'm not sure about that. Right. I don't really agree with that because probably the number 4 or 7 or 10 on the rooster, what happens, might not have the same results, but those kids are training hard, never missing a training session, always respectful, always on time. They pay attention to you.
Right.
And they deserve better chances probably, even if you don't get the same results.
Great points, for sure.
Yeah.
So when you think about, you're going to do at least one presentation for us, which we're all excited about, action stations. Tell us a little bit about your presentation and what the coaches can expect.
Okay, I want to show the way I work with the kids and have those dynamic sessions. And I want to tell everyone, why am I doing this? Why kids are running behind the baseline to one side and hopping, jumping back to the center without me telling them what to do technically. I'm not using technical language when I talk to them. And why?
You just kind of put them in the environment to do it on their own, huh?
Right. It's, how can you talk technically to a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old? Hey, recover back to crossover step. Not going to teach it because they're not but that happens, and it's fun now because we're talking about this. But it really happens on the court, and the technical part of the coaches is like, okay, I have to give them the best information, but sometimes we don't realize that they do not understand what we're talking about.
Yep.
Don't flick the wrist, bend your knees, and do this, do that. Kids don't understand. You just tell them very easy. Hey, jump over here, jump 2 feet into the hoop, or run that way, push the ball in between the cones. Don't tell them about grips. And let's see what they do. Let the kids try. Let the kids make mistakes. And if they see that this is not a proper way to do what we were trying to do, probably they have to find another way. It's not us that we have to tell them all the time what to do.
Right. Well, you mentioned mistakes, and I think that's something that's, a lot of times in the United States, but I see it in a lot of different countries, is, it's kind of in our DNA as a coach, is to try to fix things. And it's good for the kids to go through those mistakes and for the coaches to learn to not necessarily jump in too soon, right? Do you find that you watch the kids and then eventually you kind of guide them through the aspects that you're trying to get them to do, and you try to bite your tongue as much as you can and not jump in too soon?
Probably the hardest part for me, according to the way I like teaching, is to explain, okay, if you see me teaching 3-year-olds or 5-year-olds, you probably say, this guy's not that much focused on technique. If I'm teaching 7, 8, 9-year-olds, probably say, this guy's too tough on technique. It's too hard. He's always, trying to see the position of the right foot when you hit a forehand in a defensive position. Maybe I'm focusing too much on technique at that point. But that's what I think. That's what I feel. When you have 3, 4, 5-year-olds that are getting into sport for the first time, just let them be them. Just let them try. Don't put them in the cage. If you don't do this way, there's no other way. No, let them try. If they hit the forehand with the right hand and you want to do a backhand and they do it with the left hand, why not?
Right, right.
Why not? They're not going to die. Don't worry. They're trying something new.
Well, and I think that's something, you mentioned putting them in a box or in a cage, and I think that's sometimes what we do as coaches on the flip side, which is we also don't think they can do it, which is why we don't challenge them to even try it, right? So that's the other side is, are we challenging them enough to explore different things, or do we just think that, well, they can't do that, so I won't even let them do it?
Right. In this quarantine, we've been talking about with other coaches about trying to review what we do in the sessions. And I repeated a bunch of times the same thing. This is a very peculiar sport because we train, when we're little kids, we train in a group, but we compete individually.
Right.
As coaches, we're given tons of information, maybe too much information. But when the kids are playing, we cannot talk to them. So instead of teaching them, okay, you have to do this in a match, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. Try to find out or try to figure out the way to do it. And if I see that you're doing wrong, I'm going to correct you. I'm going to guide you to find the answers. Okay? We don't do that. We give them, no, you have to do this. You have to hit the ball higher when you create cross-court shot. When you do defensively, you have to do this. When you attack, you have to go down the line. Everything. We teach them everything. But they have to play a match. You can talk to them. So the kids are, okay, what should I do now? And they're looking at me or the other coaches looking at the parents saying, what's the score? I don't even know the score because every time we try, we practice a match or a game in a training session, it's the coach that is keeping the score. It's not me.
Right.
Right. So that's what happens. And we have to try to, adapt the training sessions to what's going to happen in the match.
Yeah, more of playing the game and all the different elements. You mentioned keeping track of the score. When they're out there, are they doing it themselves or is the coach always giving them the score? So there's a lot going on. And if the more we do with the kids in these practice sessions that emulate play, the better they're going to be at it.
I've seen 14-year-old players looking at their parents or their coaches after a serve from their opponent because they don't know if the ball was in or out.
Yeah.
And like looking at parents saying, was that in? No, you have to make the decision. Hey, come on, wake up, open your eyes. You've been playing for a long time now. When they're 14, probably they've been playing for 8 years.
Yeah.
Right?
So as an industry, around the world, what would your advice maybe to coaches or to clubs, if we're looking to really get more kids involved in our sport, we want to grow our sport, where's the lowest hanging fruit? Where's that area that we need to focus in on? And what would be your advice to the clubs to really impact the kids game?
Okay, that's it's easy for me to say this because I've been thinking about it. I've been working on this for a long time. But we focus, and I say we because I don't want to sound arrogant and say other coaches. No, I'm involved, but I try not to do this. We focus too much on competition level, high performance. If we have the best kids, we have the best coaches in the club. They're gonna be teaching them. Okay, but what happens? We have the mini tennis kids, we have the younger coaches. We know supervision. Sometimes running the sessions, and we have a coach that is a little tired of coaching or traveling. Okay, that guy is going to be in charge of adults, and since adults like playing games, he just play games with them. 21 here, we have played a few matches here. Adults have fun, but the sessions are not any. There's no technical stuff going on there. Okay. So if you focus on recreational players, if you focus on adults, if you focus on mini tennis, you have a huge amount of players in your program that are taken care of correctly. So kids are not going to, 15-year-old, these are the easiest ones to drop out the club because they don't like it, because they don't have any activities during the year. They've been playing for probably 6 years in the club, and they always go Tuesday Tuesday and Saturdays, or they maybe once a week, and the only thing they do is just that session once a week, 1 hour. They go home, and no one sends a message, an email, or invites them to be part of certain activities or friendly matches. Nothing. That's very common. If we take care of them, they're gonna love it. And then, if we see that in a program, the majority of the players are those recreational players, mini tennis, adults. We have the biggest percentage of players in those particular categories. So let's better pay attention to that. If we do that, we're gonna keep them in the program.
That's great advice, and I think that's not only with where you are in Barcelona, but around the world that's where the masses are. And if we even not only just focus on the beginners, but if you're focusing on those beginners that are younger in your realm of where you have been very successful, now they're with you for many years, 10, 15 years, as opposed to only, like you said, focus on those high performance kids that will be with you for 2 to maybe 4 years at the most.
Yeah, that's what happens. They drop out of the programs because they feel bored. And they want to try different sports. They maybe in primary school or high school, their friends are playing other sports. And I'm probably going to try that because you guys are talking, you're having so much fun. And at the club, I just, I'm okay.
Right.
I'm okay, but nothing special. Maybe I'll try a different sport. That shouldn't happen.
No. And I think one other thing before I let you go, because Martin, I know you're super busy, and I thank you for your time, but you mentioned another element that maybe you can expand on a little bit. It sounded a little bit about like the social element of a program. So the kids only come maybe once or twice a week for lessons or the program. What other things do you have for the kids to do outside of that keep them engaged in what you're trying to do with the tennis?
For example, you can do many things. Like, let's say you have the mini tennis kids. Let's do events when it's not tournaments. We do events that they play games or they work on skills. You invite kids from other clubs and do the same. You put on music and you give them some gifts, and then you prepare a snack after that, and the kids enjoy it. You do adults. If you have an adult program, you invite people from other clubs, and then you do matches. You play singles here, you play doubles here, mixed doubles over there, and then you do a barbecue. I'm from Argentina, so I'm an expert on that, and adults love it. So every time I do a barbecue, hey, they love it.
Let me know next time I'm coming over.
You take it on your agenda. So if you do activities, for example, in Tennis Barcelona, where I work, the Barcelona Open is played. So the ball boys are the kids from the program. They're so excited. Unfortunately, this year we have to cancel it because of the situation. Yep. But the kids are so excited about being part of it. And, I know 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds will say, oh, I've been a ball boy or a ball girl for 3-4 years. And then now I'm in charge of, I'm in charge of K3. Because the access of the court, center court, they give them the responsibilities, and the kids feel part of the tournament. That's huge. They love it. They love it. They leave that tournament from inside. It's beautiful.
I think that's the best point, right? It's not just about your tennis program or making tennis players, but them feeling connected and a sense of belonging and a part of something bigger than just showing up every Tuesday for a lesson.
Yeah, for example, when I was organizing mini tennis events, I was telling the recreational players to help me. And all I needed was, take these 8 kids, take them to court 8. They're going to be playing some stuff there. And we have a coach that is waiting for them. You just take care of them and be alert if one of them needs to go to the bathroom or forgot the racket. Anything.
Right.
And what happened? It's very simple what you ask them to do, but you get them involved. So they think, okay, they pay attention to what I can do. They pay attention to me, and I'm part of this event. I'm part of the club. And then you invite them to dinner, or you give them some gifts, probably a new shirt from the event, or shirt from the club, anything. You make them feel part of that event.
Yep.
You make them feel part of the club. And
That's
that
important.
feeling makes them feel, okay, hey, I belong in this place.
Wow.
That's what I like.
Yeah, and that's great insight and great input. And I think that's, if people took a little bit away from this, our quick chat, I think you've got a ton of great points. But that's one of them is giving them that sense of belonging and connecting with kids, especially kids. Kids want to connect with each other, and if they do so, they're going to be in your program for many years to come.
Right.
Well, thanks, Martin. I appreciate your time. I know you were super busy. I appreciate you getting on the call with me. Remember, all those that are looking to register, conference.evolve9.com, August 14th to the 23rd. We will see you there.
Big pleasure for me. Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Martin.